43 meeting of the Garden State Vintage Stock Car Club. I'm Earl Krause, and our very special guest tonight is a gentleman who has been involved in New Jersey auto racing, horsepower, and also with horses. Would you please welcome our very special guest, Tom Dancer. It's something great to have you here tonight.
Great to be here.
It's been a while since we've seen you around the racetracks. I mentioned about the horse aspect. Your family, the Dancer family, very involved in New Jersey horse racing, also on the national level. Tell us about that to start.
Well, there was there's actually five original brothers, and the one brother, Tom Dancer, who I'm actually named after, he passed away at a very young age. So, but the other four brothers, they all started in the horse industry. They saw a need for it back in the late 40s, I guess, early 50s, and they were all farmers at one time. They were milking cows and so forth, but it's just like anything with farming. That's a tough business, and they saw that this horse thing might work. So they all four brothers started out and all started training and driving. That was back in the days when you trained your own horses that you also drove. And my Uncle Stanley is probably the most well-known of all the dancers. He was first, I guess, the first trainer to ever train a horse to make $1 million. And that horse's name was Cardigan Bay. And they were actually on the Ed Sullivan Show back in the 60s. They were on the Ed Sullivan Show. And I think it's like 64, 65.
Your Uncle Stanley and the horse?
And the horse, yeah, Stanley, the horse, and Stanley was in his silks, and the horse had the cart towed behind him, and here they are on the Ed Sullivan Show. I remember as a kid looking at it, because it was a big thing, so yeah, we got a kind of a kick out of it, you know, and then Uncle Stanley too, he was on the cover of Time magazine and stuff, so he was probably the most well-known out of all the dancers, although all the dancers, they all said that my father, Harold Sonny Dancer, was probably the most talented driver of all of them. My dad also had a stable that he trained and drove. My father he had 2 world's champions, and Uncle Stanley had numerous world's champions, and Uncle Vernon had probably 1 or 2 world's champions also. And Charles, he started in it, but he got out soon, and I think he became a bus driver or something. So at least he was a driver, I guess. But yeah, so that's basically the story with the Dancer family. They're all in the Hall of Fame, and I'm pretty lucky to be born into that, even though I didn't actually like it. It wasn't fast enough for me, and I didn't know what I really wanted to do, but I know I wanted to go a hell of a lot faster than getting behind a horse. So,
did the family compete at kind of the home track freehold raceway and the harnesses?
Yeah, my dad, that was the first time he ever won a race, was at Freehold Raceway. That was the first place where he actually won a pari-mutuel race, was at Freehold. And I'm not sure where Uncle Stanley's first was, but yeah, Uncle Stanley, Uncle Vernon, Dad, and then my cousin Donald got into it. And the only one left now out of the whole Dancer family, which would be my nephew, and his last name isn't Dancer, it's Buongiorno, but it's my sister's son, and he's doing very, very well. I mean, he kind of took off where the rest of the dancers left off. He's doing very well, and the stable made a lot of money last year, and he also, I think they have 68 horses in training, so they have a big stable, and he drives and he catch drives, and he does very well. My nephew, Joey Buongiorno.
Just like with race cars, did they also build and maintain the sulkies, I believe you call them?
Yeah, the sulkies, they evolved a lot too. You know, it used to be the old wooden sulkies, which were heavier, and then they went to aluminum, and now the sulkies are titanium. So, and the way that you hook them up to a horse now, you actually get more weight, even though you might be a bigger guy. It doesn't really make any difference, because the way the sulkies are made, you're actually taking the weight off the horse. So, you know, it's just like anything, just like with race cars, modifieds, or whatever. You want to build them the lightest, and put the weight where you need them. Well, the weight where you need it doesn't really make that much difference with that today. Even though a lighter person, it probably is better, but it doesn't have to be. So, so yeah, that's basically it.
Now, I believe that Hall of Fame modified driver Bob Russell, who's from New Egypt, I believe he built and maintained the Sulkies, right?
He did, yeah. Bobby was he was one of the guys that you turned to if you needed anything, and yeah, Bobby was he was a friend of the family, and he knew all my uncles and everything very well, and my dad, and Bobby. And now, I mean, is Bobby still living?
Yes, he is.
Oh man, that's great. That's great. Really, that's great. He the last I talked to him, he was doing something when he had some cows and he was playing around on his farm. And, so God bless him. You know,
he's a member of our Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's great. Yeah, Bobby. He could do it all.
Yes,
he really could. He could build a car. He could build anything. He was really something. Really very gifted, very talented person. Yep.
Got to mention too, talking about the family involved in horses, your wife Jamie is very involved in horses too with the dressage.
Yes, she is. Yeah, she competes at a very high level, and she goes to as lucky as she is, she goes to Florida every winter, and she competes at Wellington, Florida, that is the horse capital of the world for dressage horses, and she competes at a very high level there. She not only does national competition, but she also does international competition, where that's the best in the world. So she's competing at a very high level. I kind of equate that to, you know, if we made it to the Cup, like, you know, the modified driver made it to the Cup. I mean, that's about the highest level there, and what she's doing is really at the highest level now. So yeah, she's doing a real good job. Very proud of her.
Excellent. Okay, we'll take it now to Tom Dancer. Growing up around horses, so what led you to get into horsepower, to auto racing? Again, you grew up around the New Egypt area, I believe.
Well, no, actually, I grew up in Freehold. The rest of the family was lived in the New Egypt area, and my dad grew up in the New Egypt area. But then they moved to Homedale when my dad was young, and he was actually a very good baseball player. My father was a pitcher. And he was recruited by the Yankees at one time they wanted him to come, you know, to pitch for them and go to their what do you call team? The team that, you know, where you learn from it.
The minor league,
right? The minor league farm team. And he threw the ball so hard that his shoulder hurt a lot. So he knew that the longevity factor just wouldn't be there. So so then, of course, he opted to do the horses. So, and as far as myself, how I got involved was, there was a summer night at my grandmother's house and she lived in Colts Neck. I was young. This was back in I'd have to say it was the late 60s, early 70s. And Dad said, you know, we're just hanging out. He says, hey, you want to go to the stock car races? I thought we were going to the drag strip. So next thing I know, we're at Wall Stadium. I said, what is this place? There's a bunch of cars running around here, and man, I said, this is really neat, you know. So I'll never forget that the first time that I was there, it made such an impression on me. I believe, well, I made a little note here. You had McCarthy, Pomponio, Chevalier. Probably Ray was probably there. Parker Bone with that 659 and that's the thing that really made it like a super impression on me. I saw this thing going around there, all of a sudden it shot a flame out of this wall. I was like, wow. I said, this is really something. I said, these guys are, and I said, they're going. I said, they're not messing around out there. They're running in and bouncing off of one another. And I said, this is really neat. This is some good stuff. So, so after that, I didn't go back for a little while, and then because I was starting to drag race a little bit. I got my farmer's license, and here I am over the drag strip. Drag racing, you're supposed to be 18. I'm 16, and I'm drag racing. But
is that Raceway Park?
That Raceway Park, yeah. So I started off doing that, and then Eddie Bone he started building he built his own race car, his first one. He built his first sportsman car. And he invited me over because we were both in the same grade and we went through school together and everything else. So he invited me over, a couple times to check it out while he was building it. And I thought to myself, wow, this is really something, and I asked myself, maybe I could do this. And I said, no, I couldn't do this. I mean, you got to be a special, talented person to build your own cars. And I'm sure there's plenty of guys in here that all built their own cars at one time or another. And I mean, I got to give them kudos to that because I could never. I mean, I don't think I could do that. So with Eddie building that first car, it was kind of like a school project because our auto shop teacher was also helping Eddie at the time build the car. So it's kind of like a school project. I did what I could, maybe swept the floor or whatever. I don't know. But Eddie got the car done, and then we took it down to the track, and I watched Eddie go around. And I said, "Boy, this thing goes." Eddie's doing a hell of a job too. So now I'm getting into it because I have a friend that's into it, and he's actually driving. So now I'm going, and we're rooting Eddie on and rooting his dad.
The larger than life,
Yeah.
To meet a guy like that.
Yeah. Parker was. He was larger than life, and he was an iron worker too. And Parker, big hands and a tough guy. I mean, he'd come in that shop and, him and Eddie, I mean, back then they're even arguing. So if anybody knows the two of them, I mean, they can only hear the conversations that were going on. But yeah, he was definitely larger than life. And Parker was a real nice, giving person and a person that always went out of his way to help you. I used to buy tires from him and I'd tell Parker, I'll just get the tires. Bring them over. He says, I'm mounting them. He says, you young guys, you don't want to do anything anyhow. So I'd bring the tires over and he'd mount them up for me and always there to help, So, yeah, so that's basically, so then after that, I said, I'm starting to really like this thing. So now we're going to New Egypt Speedway on Wednesday nights. And this is back when they had, that tour thing. Evans would come down. And, I mean, just, Anderson, Cook, Wayne Anderson. And now I'm watching the best of the best, and when you went to Wall, you watched the best of the best there too. And there was plenty of people that were running there too. But yeah, now I'm starting to really get into it. So I said, I need to get a car. So I said, I don't know anything about it. I don't know about setting one up. I don't know anything. It was, trial by error, I guess. But I said, I need to get a car. So I was watching the cars go around there. And at this night, it was the only night I think that Mark Engel ever won a feature there. And he won the feature. And he had the white number 10 Pinto.
Beautiful car.
It was beautiful. Oh, it was just a gorgeous car. So I approached Mark afterwards, after the race. And he said, yeah, I said, I'll sell it. He says, I'm building another one. So he said, well, you have to wait until around Turkey Derby time. I said, oh, God, I got to wait that long? I just want to try this thing. So Mark said, well, he said, we'll see what we can do. Well, as it ended up, Mark let me buy it at Turkey Derby time. But what he did was, because I asked him, I said, Mark, I want to drive this thing. He said, I said, what's it going to take for me to make you leave your motor in there and let me drive this thing around down the Turkey Derby? He said, I'll do that for you. So I said, all right. So I got in that thing, and I'll tell you, that thing had that big block in it. And man, I put my foot in that thing. Well, I left Blackmore, so they put one end right to the other. And it's a good thing I had good brakes because I think I would have ended up over there in McDowell's pit. But I really, after that, I was hooked. I mean, that's all it took. And I was hooked. I said, drag racing is nothing compared to this. I said, this is really something. So he took the motor out of the car. I went and picked the car up, and we redid the car totally. I painted it black and put the number 70 on it, and I put a Sportsman motor in it. So then I started running Sportsman with the car and did fairly well. The first first 3 weeks I didn't, because I just couldn't get it in my head that you got to be totally underneath somebody before they turn down on you going into the turn. I thought the first one there gets it. Well, that didn't. I broke the right front off that car 3 weeks in a row, and it had Coney shocks on it. I'll never forget. And I took the Coney shock back to the guy, and he says, "Oh no, not you again." So he took the shocks. He redid the shocks, and he put it back together, and we're out again. So 3 weeks in a row, I was on the hook. Then I finally learned. You either got to be wheel to wheel going in, or else you better back off it, because they're coming down on you. So then I started racing, and I got in some skirmishes here and there, but the first year I think I did fairly well. I won a feature the first year in Sportsman. I won one feature, and then I won Turkey Derby. So now that gave me a little more confidence going into the second year.
Now, was guys like Eddie Bone kind of helping you out doing the setups, or you just kind of learning on your own?
Actually, I think as it started out, Mark Engel helped me at first, and then after that, Jamie Tomato played a big part in it. Him and Howard Harvey.
Oh yeah.
Actually, Howard was probably more so than Jamie. I think Howard kind of, being the person he was, he wanted to see me run pretty well, so he helped me a lot. And so I finally got going pretty good, and so the second year I won the Spring Fling at New Egypt Speedway, which I just love that little track, that quarter-mile track. I just loved it. I don't know, it's just something about it. So I won there, and then I was going to, and then I won one more feature, I think, at Wall that year. And then I was going to win Turkey Derby. I had everybody covered. I had a new motor. I went to Motor Shop, and they built me a new Sportsman motor for the car. And I had everybody covered, and then the MSD box quit, of all things. So I think there was maybe 10 laps to go, and they quit. So that was the end of that. And then I decided, well, maybe I need to make a move to modified. Well, I should have stayed in Sportsman a lot longer. But anyhow, I made the move to modified, and I had somewhat success in modified. My best finish in the modified, I guess, was with Bob Savage's car.
Oh yeah.
I finished second one night. I was going to win, and last lap, I think it was, Mark Truex got by me. I sponsored the pumpkins that night it was around Halloween, so I sponsored the pumpkins, and everybody said, "Well, you want your pumpkins back, you cheap ass." That wasn't the case. I just wanted to win. I could care less about that. But so that was the best finish I had at Wall with the modified.
Interrupt you for a second. You mentioned Bob Savage.
Mhm.
Did he own that car?
He did.
How did you come up with getting that ride?
Actually, I approached him because he didn't have a motor, and I had a real good motor sponsor. I had Kurt's Brink Competition Center down in Manilokin and Bandit Race Motors, and for most of my time that I raced, Kurt gave me two motors, and it was like, how do you beat that? A guy just built me two motors, So I had motors, and Satch had the car, and Satch was really good at setup, and Satch understood the workings of a car much better than I did. So I think it was a good match, and so we went on from there.
Yeah. Did you race other tracks besides Wall, New Egypt at the time, do a little traveling?
Yeah, Satch and I just mostly raced Wall, New Egypt, and then of course when the modifieds got thrown out of Wall back in the early '90s, and it was funny because that's a time that I was actually just starting to kind of feel like I was starting to belong a little bit, being able to race with Harry Reid, Harry never cut me any slack. Is he back there? As a matter of fact, I think he raced me harder. I think he forgot about the time that he actually borrowed my car, put his motor in it so he could go race, Didn't you, Harry?
Yeah, I did.
So Harry, he was tough competition, but good driver, and the later stages there, Harry had a motor that was, I died for it. That thing would come up alongside you and blow the earplugs out of your head. He had a carburetor on that thing as big as a garbage can. It was like this big. So, but yeah, so we got the modifieds got thrown out of the wall. We went to Flemington, and I raced up in Flemington until 1997. I ran Satch's modified up there, and then I also drove a DA car, a dirt asphalt car up there for Stanley and Linda Skenny.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And I finished, the best I ever finished with that was second. And we cheated, of course, but nobody's supposed to know that.
Bent the rules?
Yeah, just a little bit. Actually, what we did was we took the tires from the modified and put them on that car that night. And and I could have won that night, but I said if I win, they're going to find out I got the wrong tires on this thing, But I took the tires from the modified and we put them on that car. And boy, that thing was flying. I was passing people on the left and right and all over the place. So, but those cars, they were good cars, but once you lost the air off of them, they got really loose, they're built like a big wing. So, but I really enjoyed Flemington. I just didn't enjoy if you crash.
Yeah.
When you crash, you had more than foam to pull out of your car. It was, you hit it pretty hard up there.
That must have been an experience for you. I mean, you of course started at Wall New Egypt, short tracks. Then you go to Flemington, big 5/8 mile, and drivers have told me they ran there almost flat out.
Yeah, you did. And actually, I think the best way to run that track, at least I thought, was you run it like you have an egg underneath your foot, your throttle pedal, and you never push too hard, and you never pull off too quick, and you just it's a momentum track. And I know on the back chute, I think we were clocked at like 150 on the back chute at Flemington, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a good track, and I learned a lot there too, and then of course, but when stuff happens there, it happens so quick, and a lot of times you just have nowhere to go because they're all bunched up in front of you. So, and one night with the DA car, going up, and so I forget who it was, went to go underneath me and there wasn't room. It spun me sideways, and when he did, one car hit me right in the door, and another car went over top of me. That's the only time I ever got out of a car and actually kind of thought, where am I? It was one of those type of things. So, but yeah, we tore the car pretty good that night. And the modifieds, I kind of just, I did all right. I mean, never really crashed on really bad there, just a few little things, incidents here and there. But yeah, but it's very, very enjoyable sport. And I can't thank everybody who's helped me. I can't thank them enough. Everybody's helped me along the way. Absolutely. To get, whatever I did, whatever people would think I did or didn't do. But look, I was there for the enjoyment of the sport. And just the camaraderie with everybody and the people that you hung out with, and you had met so many new people, you had so many new friends, and I just have to. I feel that I've really been blessed in my life to be able to do what I've done.
Late 1990s or Flemington, is that when you pretty much decided to walk away from active race driving?
It is. 1997, I think, was figured the other night, I think was the last year that I drove up there, 1997. So, and yeah, I walked away from that, and then I started drag racing snowmobiles with nitrous oxide and everything else. I mean, just, I had one snowmobile with the nitrous on it. It was going 126 in 500 feet. I mean, it was just hold on. That's all you did. You just hit the throttle and held on.
Yeah.
So, but I did that for a while, drag race snowmobiles, and then I started drag racing cars again, and I'm still doing that a little bit.
Okay. Where do you drag race at?
Atco. I go to Atco, Island Dragway.
Oh yeah.
Yep, for the nostalgia events. I have a 1965 Pontiac GTO. Runs 960s, 140, 141 and a quarter. So yes, I'm been doing something. You know, it's just it's nice just to be able to just continue doing something with the car. You know.
Well, I recall you got back, I believe, into oval track racing around 2007, All State in Turkey there, when you had Danny Bone driving your modified.
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, Danny, as a matter of fact, I bought Danny his first modified. And he did, he did pretty good with it. And then he ended up moving down to North Carolina. So that was the end of that deal.
For those who don't know, Danny Bone is Eddie Bone's son, Parker's grandson, and his brother Michael and brother Andrew all raced.
Yep.
So you kind of grew up with the family.
I did, and always friendly with Eddie and Parker, and then of course Danny. He worked for me when he got out of. Well, Eddie came to me when the kid was still in high school and said, "Don't you have something this kid can do?" And I said, "Well, what can he do?" He says, "I don't know," but he says, "Just make him do anything." So I was like, "Well, I'll try it," And so Danny came to work for me, and I'll tell you, it's not that I tried to actually break the kid, but I wanted to see if the kid was really going to be true blue and really wanted to give me a good day's work for a good day's pay. And I'll tell you, he just, no matter what I threw at him, he came back that much stronger and did everything that I asked and did a great job. And I don't know if Eddie told him, you better do something, you better do it right. I know Eddie's going to put his foot in his behind, but I don't know. But I know that he ended up, doing a real good job for me. And then of course he went down, he's still working for Ray Abraham down in North Carolina. And and he's a fabulous driver. I mean, he's terrific, So I even thought of, maybe sometime getting another car for him to drive, and I've mentioned to him, but in the meantime, he's down there, I'm up here, and I don't know if it would just work out. So anyhow, that's where we're at with that.
You mentioned Danny worked with you. What type of work were you doing then? What was your business?
Well, I have I guess what you call it. It's not really a landscaping business. It's a seeding business, and I seed homes for Toll Brothers.
Oh, okay.
I've been with them since 1992, and so I do all their seed work, and that's what I had Danny doing that, and I had Danny. We also had a mowing business, so we were mowing for Toll Brothers. I had Danny just running a weed whacker. I had him doing that for probably a month before I actually let him run a mower, because I want to see if he was, and he did a great job. So yeah, and then what I did was I took him away from that, and I was letting him help me farm.
Okay.
So Danny was running some of my big tractors, and he didn't understand the concept at first, but then the more he did it, the more that he learned, and then I could turn him loose and tell him to go plow this field or go disc it or go do this, go do that. And he could run any piece of equipment that I had, run anything. So yeah, I miss Danny. He's really, but we still, Danny and I still talk. I mean, yeah, I'd say probably at least once every 2 months.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, we're talking. So
that's good. Now, you still get to the racetracks yourself, the oval tracks at all?
I always try to get to Wall Stadium for Turkey Derby, and for the, if they have the NASCAR modifieds there.
Yeah.
I'll try to get there for that, and then I also try to get there for one regular show.
Yeah.
I help Tommy Martino's son. I help Tommy Jr.
Yeah.
I helped him. Yeah, I help him a little bit. Buy him tires and that kind of stuff. And Tommy's a good personal friend of mine. So, and he built the motors for my drag cars. So,
Okay.
Who could do any better job than Tommy? So yeah, we hang out, and I try to get to as many events as I can. But I still love it. It's just, you know, it's something that when it's in your blood, you just, no matter if you're racing or you're going there as a spectator or whatever. And then when I go as a spectator too, you know, people, they come up to me and they shake my hand and how you been and this and that. I remember when you did this, or you remember when you did that, some good, some bad, whatever, but at least you're acknowledged, you know, and so it wasn't all for nothing, you know. That's the way I look at it. It was really nice.
Well, that's why the Garden State Vintage Stock Car Club is such a neat concept. You know, everybody gets back together at night like this. You know, you hear the stories. It's like a reunion. And I understand one night at Wall Stadium, you went to the museum, which we have on site there, and you saw your picture there.
Yeah, I did, and I was amazed. I said, what am I doing in here? I said, you got all these really great drivers, you know, Gil Hearn, Tony Siscone, you know, Jerry Kramer. You got all these, you know, really good people. And here I am. But
I was there that night. You were amazed when you saw the picture on the wall.
I was amazed. I was totally amazed, and I was like, well, you know, I always just I tried to do the best I could do, and I never wanted to be really tough on my equipment or anybody else's equipment. So, you know, maybe I didn't take chances that other people took, but I always tried to drive anybody else's car just like I drive my own, you know, and not really wreck their stuff. So, but I was totally amazed. It was very nice, and it was much appreciated. It really was. Yeah.
Now, you still you have a chance to travel around with Jamie to the horse events?
Yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, Jamie, you know, she was, of course, we said she was down there this winter, and I flew down to Florida twice this winter and spent some time with her and why she showed and so forth. And then her show season's coming up here, Memorial Day weekend. We start at the Horse Park of New Jersey.
Oh, yes.
So Jamie will be showing there, and then we'll go from there, you know, and then hopefully she'll qualify for regionals, and then regionals are usually held in either Virginia or they're held up in Saugerties, New York, depending on what district she's in. So, and then, you know, then we'll see how she makes out then, and we'll take it from there. But she's doing a really good job.
Yeah, and seriously, the horse competition is every bit as intense in preparation as with auto racing.
It really is. It's you know, anybody that can ride a horse, I think can drive a race car, because what it boils down to is the connection from your hands to your butt. And you have to be able to feel, and that's what anybody who's driven a modified or driven any kind of car in any sort of race, they know that you have to have that feeling in your butt in order to tell your hands what to do. And it's the same thing with a horse. You know, you have to feel what that horse is going to do, and you have to be one step ahead of it in order not to get hurt. You know, so that's really what it boils down to. Yeah.
Any questions from our audience for Tom? Okay. Well, great to have you here tonight. And Tom, thanks for sharing your racing and your racing memories, and memories of growing up with the Dancer family at the various horse racing tracks. But an interesting life you've had, and I know it continues now, as you mentioned, with drag racing. I think you do some cruise nights as well.
Yes, I do. Yeah, we do some cruise nights, and Tommy Parks, who's been running that deal down in Asbury Park, he was a good friend of mine, and back in the day, we would all, back in the 70s, I mean, we'd go down there, we'd race from one light right to the next. And it wasn't cruise night, it was race night down at Asbury Park. So, and we'd wait till the cops, they were changing shifts. So you'd wait till the cops were changing the shift, and then you'd be out there shifting. So we had a real good time. I had as a matter of fact, the motor ended up in one of Ray Abraham's stock cars.
Really?
It was one of Bauman ended up buying the pickup from my dad, and my dad bought it for me. But when my father figured the kid was going to kill himself, I guess he decided to sell it, and Bauman's ended up buying it. And at one time, I think Ray even told me that they took the motor out of that truck and put it in his race car. Oh, that motor, the thing would run. It was a 350 LT1, and that pickup had a Ford top loader 4-speed in it, and it was lowered and had a narrow rear in it, Dana Posse, and I mean that thing would go. And down there to take it down Asbury Park, and never failed though. I'd blow the belts off of it, and then I'd have to stop at the hotel on the way out and put the belts back on it, and bring an extra spare belt with me, because I used the light from the hotel to be able to see, put the belt back on, and I'd always blow the belts off of it. But that was really some pickup, and we'd had a lot of fun with that down there at Asbury Park. Yeah.
I got a question.
Sure.
Ray Shea, a question.
In Sportsman or Modified, when you went on the track, who was the guy you most wanted to beat?
Most wanted to be?
Yeah.
You know, that's really a hard question, because I really looked up to everybody, and if I beat them, fine, and if I didn't, you know, it just wasn't meant to be. But I can't say there's one person I really wanted to beat. There's a bunch of people that I super admired, and one of them happened to be Gil Hearn, of course, you know, Tony Siscone. You know, you look at the people that are there then and doing what they're doing and winning races every week and so forth. Jamie Tomeno, even where's that guy Harry Reid? So, but yeah, there's a lot of people you can learn from, you know, and every time you're out on the track, you're going to learn something if you're watching, you know, and so forth. So I don't know, you know, that's just a tough question. I just admired everybody, and
So you never really had a rivalry with him?
no real rivalry. No, I don't think so. Everybody I thought always raced me pretty fair, you know, and I always tried to do the same to them, you know. I'm not going to lay over and just, you know, let you pass me, but I'm going to make you work for it. But I don't want to screw you up either in the meantime. You know, and I think most people back then, I think that's what most people did. They respected one another and they raced you. You know, it's actually you're racing, you know. So, you know, it's just like I said, there are just a lot of people that I really admired. I don't think there's anybody I really wanted to beat. Yeah, if I beat somebody that one night, that was just, it was either luck or just, I guess, a little good driving. I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot to learn, and I had a good time learning and just respecting other people. You know.
Again, as a young guy, just coming out of the sportsman division, moving up to the modifieds at Wall, it must have been kind of neat for you to kind of look over in the feature and say, "Wow, I'm racing with Gil Hearn and Tony Siscone and Ray Abraham, and wow, I'm here. I'm in the show."
Yeah, no, that was big. That was huge. I mean, when you're doing it at that level.
Yeah.
It's like my wife now, you know, what she's doing. She's at the highest level. Well, I mean, for modifieds, I mean, when you're running a modified, that's the highest level right there. So, so yeah, you're just, I was just kind of like in awe, you know, kind of like starstruck, but you learn a lot, you know, and as long as you don't screw anybody else up in the meantime, and you're learning, and everybody's racing you like they want to be raced, I think that's all you can ask for.
Very good. Mike Shea had a question.
What's the biggest lesson you ever learned racing?
The biggest lesson? Oh, I think the biggest lesson was probably like I started telling you earlier when I first started out in that sportsman car and I got my right front knocked off 3 weeks in a row. That was a pretty good lesson. But other than that, I don't know. I think every week you learn a lesson. You know what I mean? I don't know there's one thing that really stood out more than another, other than, you know, every week it was a learning experience for me. I didn't, like I said, I jumped into something I had no idea about, none. And, but, you know, had a lot of people to help me along the way and gave me a lot of good advice, and I was able to, you know, do what I did.
If you were going to give a new driver some advice, what would be that advice that you give?
Advice to a new driver.
Never think that you're too big for your britches. You know, go out there and respect the other drivers who've been there and done it. give them the respect that they deserve, you know? Don't go out there and think that you're, you know, that you're the next god to give to modifieds or whatever. You know, go out there and pay your dues and learn your lessons like everybody else has to. I think a lot of times these young kids, they just jump into these things and they think that, you know, it's a gift. Well, it's not really a gift. You gotta work and earn it, you know? You gotta earn that respect. So, yeah.
Additional questions? One last one here, Tom. When you won that very first feature in the Sportsman Division, what was your feeling when you said, "Wow, I've done this"?
I was like, did I really just do that? I remember Turkey Derby was probably winning that the first year. That was probably the biggest thrill there could ever be. But I also, and it was funny because the interview, they came over and they stuck the microphone in my face, and then they pointed like, look at the camera, you know. Well, I was on this great little speech of this, and I looked at the camera and I just like, I lost it. I lost my train of thought. And I remember it was Donnie Ling finished second, and I won, and Ling finished second, and as soon as they did that, all I did was praise Ling for that he was a true sportsman today, and that he raced me really well, and you know, this and that. And it was funny because my facial expression just changed. Like, it's the funniest thing. I have it on VHS, and I don't even know where it's at now, but if I wanted a good laugh, all I need to do is look at that. Because my whole facial expression changed and everything, and I started building him up. Here I am, I'm the guy that won the race, you know? So, but it was fine. And Donnie and I, we always pit one next to one another, and we kind of like, we started at the same time, and we kind of like did the same thing, so yeah, so he was a good friend of mine at that time, and we I think we treated each other with respect also, you know. And Kevin Ayers is another one. He raced at the same time, and Colin Besky, and there's a lot of good racers then, and we all seem to, you know, treat one another with respect. We congratulated each other when they won, and we were happy for one another. So
Tom, overall, a great racing life.
Yeah, it's been a great, I think my whole life has been just very blessed, and very blessed with a lot of things in life, meeting a lot of, you know, nice people, and being part of this tonight, and, you know, being blessed with my wife, my business, and being able to, you know, just, I guess, do about what I wanted to all my life. And I don't think there's too many regrets. I mean, I guess everybody has regrets, but I've been really blessed in my life. So, and really very appreciative too of everybody here tonight, and appreciative of you know, everything that I guess, you know, I've done, and what you guys have all done for me tonight. I mean, this really meant a lot to me tonight, to be able to sit here and talk to everybody. So. Really did, and I want to thank everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, our very special guest, Tom Dancer.